Hello everyone, and welcome to the first video of my Natlan speculation miniseries. Today, I want to talk about which Fatui Harbingers we could see in the land of Pyro. We know that Capitano will be there, but since this is the last nation before Snezhnaya, I have a feeling that there may be a few others making an appearance. Now, this video does contain spoilers for the quests listed on screen now, so if you haven't done those, you have been warned. With all that said though, let's get right into the video. To start off this video, I want to talk about the one Harbinger that has been confirmed to be in Natlan right now, that being Il Capitano. At the end of the Fontaine Archon quests, we learn from Neuvillette that Capitano has thrown his hat into the nation's endless ring of war, meaning we'll be seeing him when we get there. Before he went to Natlan though, Capitano ran into the Knights Favonius expedition, which actually gives us a glimpse into his character. In Mika's character stories, he describes the night they encountered the Fatui and how Capitano had glowing dark blue eyes. Thanks to Capitano and Varka though, the two sides didn't fight and agreed to remain cordial. The two groups remained in the same area for a bit, with some of Capitano's actions even helping the expedition. Under different circumstances, Varka said that he would have loved to duel the famous Harbinger. Despite the recent actions of the Fatui in Mondstadt, Capitano remained peaceful, which I believe reflects his character. In fact, this is reflected in the voice lines we have about him from the three playable Harbingers. Tartaglia has seen Capitano in battle before, and he seems to have loved what he saw. Due to being the 11th of the Harbingers, he hasn't been noticed by Capitano yet, but he hopes to one day show him what he's made of. On the other hand, Wanderer doesn't like how he gets a ton of compliments about his character. In his eyes, absolute righteousness is a latent danger. Adding his great strength onto that potential danger, it's not hard to see why he thinks that way. Speaking of his strength, Arlecchino also describes him as very powerful with a high level of responsibility. Still, she believes him to be worthy of respect independent of his power, which once again reflects his true character. With all the mentions of his power, I believe he is extremely likely to be the first of the Fatui Harbingers. We learned from Tartaglia that the Harbingers are based on strength, so this ranking would make sense for him. Additionally, the order of the voice lines about each of the Harbingers seem to reflect their ranking within the Fatui. Within this order, Capitano would fit in the first seat as well, with Piero being the director. Now, having the first Harbinger appear in Natlan shows the importance of obtaining the final Gnosis, but I don't think he'll be the only Harbinger there. Due to it being the last nation before Snezhnaya, I believe Natlan's story could involve a lot of the Harbingers. Each of them would have different tasks throughout the nation, with some working to retrieve the Gnosis, while others work to finalize other parts of the plan. For this video, I have ideas for 4 other Harbingers appearing in Natlan. First up, we have the third of the Harbingers, Columbina. I've speculated that she'll appear in Natlan before, mainly due to her potential ties to Celestia or Istaroth. These connections would make it fitting for her to be on the mission for the final Gnosis, especially if it's harder to find than the other ones. In my opinion, the Pyro-Gnosis may be lost, which could be why Capitano arrived in Natlan so early. Now, if Columbina appears in Natlan, we could ask her some questions. According to Arlecchino, her answers are entirely unpredictable, but I believe her answers could hide deeper meanings within them. We could meet her towards the start of the Archon quests and get a few enigmatic answers from her. As the story progresses though, we would learn information that allows us to find the true meaning behind her words. She could give us subtle hints for the future, or use our curiosity against us to help her find the Gnosis. Moving on though, the next Harbinger I want to talk about is the 11th of the Harbingers, Tartaglia. Given the fact that he loves to fight, I wouldn't be too surprised to see him in Natlan. Even if he isn't assigned to go there, he might just go anyway. After all, he snuck back into Fontaine during Arlecchino's story quest to try and see his master again. Whatever his reasons for being in Natlan end up being, I believe he'll have a bigger role than he did in Fontaine. Arlecchino says that he often thinks the best of others and finds himself used by them as a result. So I think it would be cool if we got a character arc with him in Natlan, where he comes into his own and even gets recognized by Capitano. Speaking of Arlecchino though, I think the 4th Harbinger could have a behind the scenes role in Natlan. She could work in the shadows to gather information, perhaps with the help of the House of the Hearth. Her appearance here could also give us more information on Project Stuja, which was briefly mentioned in her story quest. We could also learn more about her power, as it could somehow be related to a primal fire in Natlan, similar to the primordial sea of Fontaine. Now, the final Harbinger I want to talk about would be the second of the Harbingers, Il. Despite having segments that can travel all across Teyvat, we have barely seen Dottore in the story. He made his in-game debut in Sumeru, but he only appeared for a short time. We also know that he influenced certain events in Inazuma and Mondstadt in the past, but that's really it. His role in Natlan could have him research the aforementioned primal fire of Natlan, which could set up the scene from A Winter Night's Lazo where he burns Irminsul. He could even work with Arlecchino on this because of her potential links to this power, though she likely wouldn't be too happy about that. As for the remaining Harbingers, they would either be saved for Snezhnaya or some interlude quests. For example, Pulcinella and Pantalone could appear in an interlude quest in Fontaine about Project Stuja. Then again, it's said that those two barely leave Snezhnaya, so that might just be saved for later. As for Signora, I do have to briefly talk about the resurrection theory. As cool as it would be to bring her back and have her be playable, I think they should let her rest. After all, she had a tragic life, but her death allowed her to finally be reunited with her lover, Rostam. Now then, let's move on to some plot ideas for the Harbingers. Once we get to Natlan, I feel like we'll meet some of the Harbingers quite early on in the story. Since Capitano has been confirmed to be in Natlan already, he may be the first Harbinger we meet there. Tartaglia could appear early as well, which could help set up his potential character arc. Columbina could also appear briefly so we could get some enigmatic answers from her that we will better understand as the story progresses. In Natlan's Archon quests, we could cooperate with the Harbingers far more than we have in previous nations. Introducing Tartaglia to the story early would help this idea, as he is the Harbinger we know best. This early part of the story could have Tartaglia explain to us what his purpose in Natlan is. It could be that he has been assigned to help obtain the Pyronosis, or he may just want to be noticed by Capitano. Upon mention of the Pyronosis, we could ask him why the Fatui are collecting the Gnosis, but he wouldn't give us an answer. Soon after this, we would meet Columbina, who would answer this question, but not clearly. As I've said, the answers she gives would be correct, we would just have to uncover the true meaning of her words throughout the story. To uncover the answers, we may have to work with Tartaglia and the other Harbingers as well. The story could also involve us meeting with the 6 tribes of Natlan, though I want to save that for another video. Later on in the story, perhaps in version 5.1, we could run into Arlecchino and Dottore. We would learn about the primal fire of Natlan and even the Pyro Sovereign from them, which could help us with Columbina's answers. Eventually, all the pieces would come together, allowing us to find the location of the Pyronosis. As I've said, I believe the Pyronosis is either lost or hidden somewhere, and that it's not with the Pyro Archon. Again, this could be why Capitano was in Natlan so early, as he would need more time to locate the Gnosis. Moving on though, I can't talk about the Harbingers without talking about a potential weekly boss. Ever since Liyue, a Harbinger has been one of the weekly bosses in every single region. Whether it ends up being the first or second weekly boss of the region, I believe this trend will continue as we head to Natlan. However, the question of who this Harbinger would be is a bit tricky. We fought Arlecchino, the 4th of the Fatui Harbingers, in her story quest, but we were unable to beat her. Even though she seemed to be surprised by her strength, she still went easy on us, which makes me wonder what the Harbingers ranked above her can do. In the past, I've speculated that either Capitano or Columbina could be the Harbinger we fight in Natlan. However, they are the 1st and 3rd of the Harbingers respectively, meaning we'll have quite a tough time against them. I could still see us fighting them though, perhaps as a test to see if we could help with the Fatui's plans in Snezhnaya. We could have a duel against Capitano to test our strength, or even a duel against Columbina to unlock some final answers. If not one of them, then the only Harbinger left in Natlan who we haven't fought before would be Dottore. Again though, he is the 2nd of the Harbingers, which means a fight against him would be tough as well. Still, many of the other Harbingers seem to dislike Dottore, with both Wanderer and Arlecchino expressing a desire to kill him. Additionally, Columbina purposefully pressed his buttons while talking to him at the end of a Winter Night's Lasso. So, if we do end up fighting him, it wouldn't be too surprising if some of the other Harbingers end up helping us. As for why we would fight him, perhaps his plans with the Primal Fire and burning down Irminsul may not have been intended by the Tsaritsa. We may have to stop him from doing something crazy, which would lead to a fight. The Harbingers we are most familiar with could help us fight, such as Arlecchino and Tartaglia. This fight could also act as the final part of Tartaglia's character arc in Natlan, leading him to be recognized by Capitano and finally come into his own. During the fight, Dottore could imbue himself with the power of the Primal Fire, leading to a second tougher phase. Even if we are able to take him down though, by this point he would have likely built new segments. One of these segments could be waiting nearby, and when the fight ends, this segment could escape with the Primal Fire. This could then lead to an interlude quest where we track him down, or it could tie into Snezhnaya's Archon quests. After all, the burning of Irminsul would likely be an endgame storyline, but it could still be set up here. Anyways, that's pretty much it for my thoughts on the Harbingers in Natlan. Natlan is already less than 4 months away, and I can't wait to continue this miniseries. In the meantime, if you want more Natlan lore, I recommend my videos on Tales of Teyvat and the Mayor Javari. I also plan on releasing a video on the new artifact set Unfinished Reverie later this week, which will give us even more Natlan lore. I would love to hear what ideas you all have for the Harbingers in Natlan in the comments below as well. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Sources and further readings are also in the description if you want to check them out. I hope you all have an amazing day, and I'll see you all in the next video.